I was originally planning on giving an actual review of Eric Andre's new Netflix comedy special, Legalize Everything, but then I watched it, and I think anybody else that's seen it can tell you that no review could possibly do it justice.
We have arrived at the bukkake part of the set.
I could put together a video telling you how wacky and zany it is, but I mean, duh, it's Eric Andre. What else are you expecting? If you've ever seen the Eric Andre show on Adult Swim, you'll know what you're getting yourself into. You just need to watch Legalize Everything for yourself. You'll know if you want to keep watching after the first 5 minutes, trust me. But one thing I can tell you for sure is that Eric Andre glistens with energy throughout his entire set. No, literally, he sweats a ton and I could not stop noticing it. It makes sense, he yells and flails and goes into the crowd, but for some reason it just kept sticking out to me. So let's break it down step by step. Okay, after some clips of him impersonating a police officer on the streets of New Orleans.
I stole these pills and these shrooms from the evidence room.
You stole them and you took them?
This stuff will knock you into next Tuesday. You gotta get high with me.
It cuts to him running up an aisle of the venue, hyping up the crowd, screaming, and by the time he gets on stage, the sweat is already piling up on his forehead. After such an intense intro, that's no surprise, but a few minutes later, we get a good view of his armpits when he raises his shirt up, and as far as I can tell, there's no moisture buildup yet. But we're only a few minutes in, let's give it some time.
Squatters' rights!
He wipes his face off about 5 minutes in, but this is no normal first 5 minutes of a set. No, he is in full volume mode right now, from the get-go, talking about drugs and parkour, and he even tells the audience up front what they're going to be seeing for a lot of the night.
Most of my set is just...
After this, he sits down on his stool and is telling some stories in a pretty calm manner, and when he lifts up his shirt, he seems okay still in the perspiration department. However, just moments after this, a tight shot of his face shows that he is dripping water like an overflowing storm drain, just pulsing down his mug, even after a little downtime by his standards.
And my uvula was like a giant clitoris. So I was just like,
A few minutes go by and not much changes. He appears to be picking up a little bit of neck wetness about 15 minutes in, a reasonable next step based on what I know about gravity, but then around the 20-minute mark is when the floodgates really open. Eric Andre goes into a bit about the show Cops using reggae music for its intro.
The intro to Cops is like, "You're under arrest, you unarmed innocent black teenager." Boom! Jamaica mon gone downtown. Rastafari, welcome to the island of peace and purity. Kiss my boots, you disenfranchised transgender prostitute. Bam!
Coupling it with some intense yelling, and this takes his sweating to another level as he collapses on the ground, wiping his forehead and talking about the devil juice seeping out of his pores.
I'm sweating like Jeff Epstein's final moments up here.
After a few minutes, we start to see some serious chest droplets forming around his collar, followed by some spotted seepage on his stomach, but somehow, a few minutes later, we get another look at his pits, and there doesn't appear to be much of anything. He's getting awfully damp, yeah, but considering how mobile and frantic the set has been, he stayed relatively tame. In fact, it doesn't get a whole lot worse. The set continues with some more physically subdued bits, like showing two elderly people stripping and making out before canceling John Calvin.
If you're ever in Plymouth, Massachusetts, please fill up your diva cups with your pagan, Wiccan, satanic period blood. Splash it all over Plymouth Rock. Hop in an airplane, go to Geneva, Switzerland, where John Calvin's buried, and have bottomless, unprotected anal sex on that motherfucker's tombstone.
And we get a few glimpses of pit sweat potential, but not a whole lot comes of it. After talking about a conversation he had with a girl he used to hook up with and FaceTiming one of the audience members' moms, the show ends, and Eric Andre looks okay. Maybe I was wrong. I mean, he does look like he put his face in a rice cooker, but considering the physical exertion that went into this performance, it's pretty impressive.
You're playing to my fucking macho insecurities. I know I'm gonna regret this.
Running, yelling, rolling on the floor, convulsing, yelling, announcing how he finally got his medical meth card.
I'm excited. I just got my medical crystal meth card. Woo!
Yelling. There's a lot of moving parts here, and he seems to come away in decent shape. Here's the thing. It's not like this was a one-off show or anything. I mean, this was a full tour he was on. I wanted to see how many shows he had done prior to this, to see how incredibly strong his voice must be, so I went to his website, and this is what I got. Not exactly what I was looking for, but I did eventually find the full list of dates, and oh boy. First, Eric Andre started with an 8-show run in Europe, before doing 6 more across Australia and New Zealand, before making his way to North America, and it only goes up from there.
My man, that's basic math, bro.
By my count, there were 19 shows originally planned in the US and Canada, but he added at least 13 more dates that I could find, meaning that his tour in total had 46 dates across 9 different countries in 91 days, and there's probably more that I missed that got added late. As we know, the special was shot in New Orleans, which took place on November 21st, show number 90 of 91.
And I swear, I'm not making this up, I'll fucking screen grab and airdrop every one of you. I don't care how long it takes.
If that's not enough for you, on that date, it appears that he had both an early and a late show, the first starting at 6 p.m. and the second starting at 9. Now, I can't confirm that he filmed at the late show, but he does say late in the set during the mom FaceTime portion that he thinks it may still be early enough to reach a few moms.
So I was wondering, it's not too late. Is there anybody's mom who's awake right now? We can get a few moms going.
So I think it's fair to assume that this was the 9 o'clock start. On top of all of this, Eric Andre is not exactly a spring chicken. He's been subjecting his body to a number of stunts during the Eric Andre show, none more ceremonious than his routine destruction of the set to open the show every time out. Plus, Eric Andre is damn near 40 years old, so it's not like he's doing all of this in his early 20s and burning himself out. This is just him, and it's almost miraculous. Even playing devil's advocate really doesn't work. You could say that a ton of comedians go on these really long tours. Eric Andre's no different. And you'd be right, but other comedians sweat just as much as he does with far less physical comedy. Take Tom Segura and his Netflix special, Mostly Stories. Now, to be fair to Segura, this was before he won his weight loss competition against Brett Kirschler, who has his own airflow strategy and pre-show routine.
I smell bad and I fuck dogs, okay?
But both still get pretty sweaty. I mean, that's not weird. Comedians get on a stage where they're pelted with lights in front of 1 million people, and I'm sure there's a lot of nerves that creep up, especially when they know they're filming a special. Also, a lot of comedians tend to wear black when they shoot specials, for a lot of different reasons, but also it can help hide stains, including sweat stains. Now, to be fair, not every comedian does this, but a lot tend to, and when they don't, there are other ways to get some of the same effects. For example, John Mulaney tends to do his specials wearing a full suit and tie, which is definitely a lot hotter than a regular shirt, but it also hides the perspiration pretty well, and he tends to have the advantage of playing in really large venues for his specials, so there's a lot more room to breathe. Some of Eric Andre's sets were in big venues as well, but his special took place in Republic NOLA, which, according to their website, seats about 1,000 people total, which is still a lot of people, but you can tell on the broadcast that this is a tight, hot space.
Did it. Took me 36 years of campaigning, finally did it.
Eric Andre basically did a full workout and vocal cord destruction routine on a stage in a very intimate venue with lights glaring at him for an hour, and managed to come away with a little face glisten and marginal pit stains. I think this is especially impressive for a guy who does as many drugs as Eric Andre seemingly does.
I like acid. That's my favorite drug, LSD. I've done the worst cocaine in my entire life in New Orleans. What is going on? So I give her a little weed cookie, and then we start playing Scrabble. My brain must have hit a Xanax black hole, and I've never been more mad and high at the same time. And I just turned around, and I started ripping grass out of the ground and going, no! Why? So we fucking wolfed down a bunch more. What a fucking mistake. Because then my eyeballs started working independently like a chameleon.
His body must hate him. There's no way he's firing on all cylinders after all of the things he's done to it. Yet he still pulled this out with a lot less sweat than I thought.
Oh, okay.
I started making this video thinking I was going to highlight how draining this show appeared to be for Eric Andre, but instead, this has become a testament to his will. I don't know if you find Eric Andre funny. I know I certainly do, but I understand he's not everybody's cup of tea. He's off the walls and he's out there, but if he's able to do all of this and walk away brushing off his shoulders, he might be superhuman. I've watched a lot of stand-up, and there aren't really many specials that look or play like Andre's. We already knew that he was not exactly the most typical fellow from his previous endeavors, but I think Legalize Everything has proved that he is the first alien to make human contact, and maybe we just weren't looking hard enough.
He's got a story to tell. He will not be silenced. He is living his truth. What happened, my man? Tell me the sexy little details.